Why would a 16-year-old leave practice and disappear without a trace, while the entire town slept just blocks away? The clock had just nudged past 7:42 p.m. when Collins Rivera stepped out of the community center, his polished shoes scuffing against the cracked pavement of Maple Street. The streetlights flickered, throwing jagged shadows across the sidewalk, yet nothing about the neighborhood suggested danger. It was the kind of place where neighbors waved from their porches and dogs slept on cushions in the window. And yet, tonight, something invisible had shifted. Collins paused mid-step, his hand brushing against the edge of the piano bench he had been practicing on. The sheet music lay open, pages ruffled as if by a gust of wind that hadn't existed. There was a note tucked beneath one of the sheets, a hurried scrawl in Collins' own hand. "Check the river path tonight. Tell no one." That simple sentence would later torment everyone who knew him. Liam Rivera, his older brother, was midway through a night shift at the clinic, unaware that the last image of Collins alive would haunt him forever. Liam's phone buzzed at 7:53 p.m. A single, unanswered message from Collins. "I found it. You'll never." And then silence. Every subsequent call went straight to voicemail. Coach Ramirez locked up the hallways after the evening rehearsal. He had watched Collins linger near the grand piano longer than usual, fingers hovering over the keys, eyes darting toward the parking lot. Ramirez hadn't thought much of it at the time, just a boy lost in practice. But hours later, when the janitor reported the sheet music still open and the piano stool cold, Ramirez realized he had been the last adult to see him alive. Meanwhile, Jordan Kim, Collins' closest friend, lingered outside the community center, juggling a bag of groceries and a backpack he was carrying for another student. Jordan had noticed Collins talking quietly to a stranger across the street, a man neither of them recognized, wearing a cap pulled low over his face. He remembered it because Collins had stepped back suddenly, eyes narrowing, and muttered something that didn't make sense. "I shouldn't be here." No one in town could explain why Collins left Maple Street that night, and no CCTV captured him beyond the crosswalk at the bend of Elm Lane. The only traces were his sheet music, the half-finished voice note, and a pair of footprints leading to the riverbank that suddenly stopped, as if the ground itself had swallowed him whole. Every neighbor had a memory that contradicted the others. Mrs. Alvarez swore she saw Collins walking confidently toward the main road. Mr. Jennings, the night janitor, swore he heard a soft tapping, like fingers drumming on piano keys, coming from the empty hall long after everyone had left. And yet, the street was quiet, unnervingly quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your chest when you know something is wrong but cannot say what. By the time dawn bled over Maple Street, Collins Rivera had vanished. And with him, the certainty of safety that the small town had always clung to. The sheet music remained, the scribbled note, the incomplete voice message, all pointing to something deliberate, chilling, and unresolved. Why did a boy so careful, so routine, decide to vanish in a place everyone knew, where danger seemed impossible, and never come back? Every unanswered question would carve itself into the minds of those left behind. And this was just the beginning. Who would leave a voice trembling in the dark, knowing no one could answer it? Detective Mariah Santos arrived at Pine Lane just past midnight, flashlights slicing through the mist. The streets smelled of wet earth and burnt leaves, a scent Collins' mother, Evelyn Rivera, would later describe as hauntingly familiar, like the last time he played piano before disappearing. A neighbor, Mrs. Calloway, swore she heard a low muffled cry echo behind the old warehouse near the lane. But when Mariah checked, the doors were locked tight, windows dusty and opaque. No footprints, no tire tracks, only a faded ribbon Collins had worn on his wrist snagged on a fence. Evelyn clutched the ribbon at home, pressing it to her chest, heart hammering. "It's as if he left a piece of himself," she whispered. Mariah noticed her hands shook, not with fear alone, but with a grief too heavy for words. Meanwhile, the town's radio operator, Simon Hart, intercepted a static-laced call around 12:14 a.m. The voice was unmistakably Collins, though fragmented. "The river bends there." The line cut abruptly, leaving only white noise and a pulse of dread. Every new clue, ribbon, voice, muffled sound, stacked uneasily. Collins' disappearance was no longer just absence. It was a series of deliberate signals, each one twisting the town deeper into fear. Why would a piano key stay pressed long after the music stopped? Local librarian Harper Nguyen discovered it first. Collins' sheet music, oddly stacked in the corner of the library's unused music room, had a single page folded at the edge, as if pointing to something unseen. Harper could feel the weight of absence pressing against the walls, an emptiness Collins had left behind that screamed louder than any noise. Nearby, town historian Clive Donovan noticed a scrap of paper pinned beneath a loose floorboard. Scribbled numbers, coordinates, or a code, impossible to decipher immediately, but enough to ignite a thread of fear. No one saw Collins leave. No one heard him again. Yet his presence lingered, in folded pages, hidden numbers, and the faint scent of cedar from the piano bench. Every small detail whispered a question the town couldn't answer, and every witness felt the tension like a living pulse. Who calls for help when no one can answer? At 2:17 a.m., dispatch officer Kira Voss answered a call that registered no number. The line crackled, a single fragmented voice whispering, "He's by the bridge, hurry," before cutting out. Kira noted it, but the address pointed to a deserted country bridge miles from town, the one everyone avoided after dark. Meanwhile, delivery driver Tomas Alvarez reported an unusual sight while making his early morning rounds. A single sneaker lying near the roadside, mud-caked and damp, perfectly intact. No other signs, no disturbance, just the shoe. Something about it twisted the gut, a quiet scream in the middle of emptiness. Across town, Emily Rourke, Collins' music teacher, reviewed his last lesson recordings. She paused at a timestamp where Collins had said, "If I'm not back, check the bridge." The words, calm yet urgent, hung in her mind like a warning she couldn't act on fast enough. Each tiny clue, fragmented calls, abandoned shoe, cryptic voice, layered dread over Maple Street. Collins wasn't just missing. The town was already trapped inside the echo of his disappearance. Why would someone leave a ledger full of names and cross out only one? Local shop owner Gareth Mills found it first. A small notebook tucked beneath the counter of his closed hardware store. The pages were meticulously filled with mundane entries, except one line, Collins Rivera, circled and scratched through multiple times. Gareth's fingers trembled. The action seemed calculated, deliberate, and sinister. Nearby, paramedic Nina Torres reported seeing footprints in the soft dirt along the river embankment. But they ended abruptly, as though the earth itself refused to hold them. Nothing matched the town's known paths. Even Rory Finnegan, a retired forest ranger who lived on the outskirts, recalled hearing a faint piano note drifting from the mist near the bridge at dawn. He dismissed it at the time as his imagination, but now every fiber of him knew it wasn't. Collins' disappearance was no longer just a missing person case. Every small clue, scratched ledger, interrupted footprints, phantom music, hinted at a methodical, unseen observer, leaving the town on edge and desperate for answers. What do you do when everyone remembers something different, and the truth keeps slipping away? Detective Harris Cole stared at the statements sprawled across his desk. Every witness described Collins differently that night. Some said he walked calmly toward the bridge. Others swore he ran, glancing over his shoulder. Nothing aligned. Then came Clara Benson, a local dog walker who claimed she saw a man arguing with Collins near the abandoned mill, not the bridge. Her voice shook as she repeated, "I know I'm not imagining it. He grabbed him, I swear." But her description of the man contradicted every other report, leaving Harris to wonder if she had really seen it, or if memory, grief, or fear had twisted it beyond recognition. Meanwhile, radio technician Eli Martin found the cut-off voice note on Collins' phone had a faint background sound, a truck engine idling, then driving away, that no one had noticed before. The evidence didn't fit the stories, but it hinted at someone watching, waiting, and controlling the scene. For Liam Rivera, seeing the conflicting accounts was a dagger. He wanted clarity, a reason, a culprit, but the town was splintered by uncertainty. Collins' absence had become an ever-changing puzzle, each clue both terrifying and maddeningly unreliable. What would you do if the last clue you held screamed his name, and nobody believed you? At first light, rescue diver Jonah Fletcher stepped into the murky river just outside town. Water lapped cold against his wetsuit as he scanned the shadows. Then his gloved hand brushed against something. A music sheet, waterlogged and torn, its edges fluttering like a whisper. Underneath, the ground gave way to a hollow. Collins' small shoe, neatly placed on a rock, untouched by mud. Nearby, local fisherman Irene Castillo called out, pointing to a tarp wedged between reeds. As the police pulled it free, the hollow revealed Collins. Alive, but unconscious, trapped in the shallow water, tangled in debris. The half-cent voice note, the discarded sneaker, the sheet music. All were deliberate signals he had left, clues to buy him time before whoever was chasing him returned. Liam collapsed by the riverbank, gripping his brother, tears mingling with mud. Collins' eyes fluttered open, and in a whisper, he said, "I tried to leave hints. Someone was following me." Every unanswered question, every conflicting story, suddenly made terrible sense. The town would talk about Maple Street for years, but the most haunting truth wasn't the danger Collins had escaped. It was how close they had been to losing him forever, and how much grief a single unanswered call could carry. If you want to uncover more chilling stories like this one, hit subscribe to the Veil of Secret, and never miss a secret the town doesn't want you to hear.